what's up? I've been kind of busy this weekend, so I didn't have time to do a video. With the whole spring forward, so I lost an hour there. And then I was kind of busy on Saturday, which is the day I usually shoot my videos. Just want to talk a little bit about the C300. This is a 09. I have 95,398 miles at the moment. A little backstory on it. I bought this car in 2011, May time frame, and I got it from Mercedes-Benz in Central California. Funny story is, as you know, this is a 6-speed manual transmission C300, and they didn't make very many of them, so it's a very rare car. And when I seen that it was on the lot, I was like, I need to go get that car. But the sticker price was, I believe, $31,500, somewhere around there. And I was like, man, I need to get that car. It was 2 years old when it was on the lot. It had 30,000 miles. And the story was, I was like, man, I need to see how cheap I can get this car, and try and get them out as much money as I can. And so I went to the lot. I already did my research and seen that this was the only black with the silver interior car on the lot. They had about, I want to say it was like 7 C300s on the in the dealership at the time, and none of them were black with the silver. So I was like, oh, I want to see the black with the silver. So the salesman brought me out to the car, and he opened the door, and I was like, what? It's a stick? He was like, oh, yeah, do you know how to drive stick shift? I was like, well, yeah, I know how to drive stick, but I didn't know Mercedes made stick. And he was like, yeah, this is the only one we have on the lot that's a stick shift. And I was like, oh, okay, well, let's go look at another one. So he took me around, showed me a black one with black interior. I was like, nah, I don't like that, because the wood, for one, I really dislike the wood in that that model, because it wasn't the black wood, it was the like the oak wood, or whatever you want to call it, the brown wood, So that I was like, no, not that one. So then he showed me a white one with the tan interior. They had a red one with black interior, which was pretty nice because it had the panoramic roof, which is what I do wish I had. But I was like, no, that's not what I want. I said, hey, let's go look back at that the first one that we seen. I said, I want to go drive it. So I took it out, drove it, and I was like, it's okay, but I don't want to pay $31,000 for a stick shift Mercedes. So the guy was like, well, what are you looking at? I was like, well, if you can give it to me for $25,500 out the door, maybe we could do some dealing. And the salesman was like, oh, I'm sure we can't go that low. We can't go. I was like, all right, well, that's fine. I'll just head up down to either LA or go up to the Bay Area and see if I can't find me a black with silver. So I leave, and about, I don't know, 45 minutes later, the guy calls me back. He's like, hey, I talked to the sales manager. He says we can make a deal, blah, blah, blah. This was I believe it was a Wednesday. And I told him, well, I'm already at the house. I live 40 minutes away. So I was like, hey, if it's still there this weekend, maybe I'll come scoop it up. And the guy was like, oh, well, blah, 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 the manager said. I was like, well, I told you I'm 40 minutes away. By the time I get back, you guys are almost closing. I'm not trying to do that, and I don't want to drive another 40 minutes today. So I ended up going back on that Friday. I didn't wait until the weekend. I went back on Friday and did up the paperwork and all this stuff. And after that, the manager was like, oh, sorry, we couldn't make a deal on Wednesday or whatever day I went. I'm pretty sure it was Wednesday, because I know I didn't go the next day. I think I waited 2 days before I went back. But he's like, hey, sorry, we couldn't make out a deal. He goes, what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna throw in a little maintenance plan for you. So he gave me some little BS, you know, 3 oil change, or they call them, you know, phases or whatever, services. You know, there's an A and a B service. So he gave me 3 services for free, you know, which was cool because at that time I was driving the car quite often, and you know, so every 10,000 miles or annually, you're gonna get this message on your dashboard saying that, hey, your service A or service B is due. You know, and I didn't realize how much those services cost until I had to pay for my first one, which after I paid for my first one, I quickly started doing my own services, because the service A and service B is a very simple. You know, they change your oil filter. They change all of the filters in the car, cabin, air filter. One of your services, A or B, you do spark plugs, you know, and they just basically top off all of your fluids. So after I did a little bit of research, I was like, oh, I could do those myself. I found out that doing it myself cost me about $200, where the dealership was charging me about $7. Okay, so he threw in 3 free ones, and I was like, awesome. Paid everything, and my wife was cracking up at the house the day, you know, when the first day I went, because she thought I was coming home with a freaking, you know, Mercedes-Benz that day. And when I left, and she was like, I thought you wanted that car. I said, I do. However, I'm going to try and get it for as cheap as I can. And when she seen that I got it for $25,000 out the door, meaning I paid roughly 21 and some change for the car itself in 2009. So this was a 2-year-old car. It only had 30,000 miles, and I got it for pennies on the dollar at that time, you know. And she was like, you know, that's the car that you wanted, and you're gonna do all this. And I was like, well, that's how I'm gonna save us some money, you know. And I did save us a lot of money by buying it that way, you know. I was able to modify a lot of stuff within that first few months of having the car. Before I even got my license plates, I already upgraded my exhaust, which is X-pipe, and then it has the Meister shaft exhaust. That's a catback. However, I didn't use the front section of it because I did do the X-pipe. And then I already lowered it, which is on H&R coilovers. And I also had my wheels that are, I'm gonna leave those a little bit as a surprise for an upcoming video. I did pull them out yesterday of storage and cleaned them off. You know, I when I pulled them out, I was like, oh shoot, I forgot to clean them up before I put them in storage. So it did take me quite a bit of time to knock off the old brake dust that was on there, and then a little bit of the road grime that's inside the barrel. So I did clean that out. I do need to clean them up a little bit more before I start showing them on the channel, because as you know, spring forward yesterday. Today is Monday the 9th of March. So I wanted to have a opportunity to clean them up, get them out, because I like to drive on those in the summertime here in Southern California. You know, let's see. But yeah, like I was saying, that was how I purchased this vehicle, and it was awesome. It's funny because I see on Kelley Blue Book all the time that this car supposedly is in the stance, or the condition that it's in right now, is worth about $8,500 on Kelley Blue Book. But there is no way that I would ever let this car go for that cheap, because of, you know, the rarity of the vehicle. And I don't think that Kelley Blue Book ever takes that into circumstance or whatever, you know, or under, you know, what's that word I'm looking for, you know, consideration. But like I said, I do enjoy driving this car. There's a lot of things that I have in store that I want to do coming in the next year. So I told you I bought the car 30,000 miles. Let's do the math. It now has 95,000 miles, right? So that's roughly 65,000 miles. And that's 65,000 miles on my suspension. That's 65,000 miles on the car itself. So there's going to be a lot of upkeep that I'm going to be doing. I actually am due for my oil change here in the beginning of April. So I will be doing my service, whatever. I have to look at what services do. So I'll videotape me doing my service. You know, I have a garage that I go to, or a bay, you know, that I pay to use the lift, and so I'm able to climb underneath the car easily. And while I'm under there, you know, I could show you guys a little bit of the suspension components. I'll show you my exhaust, you know, in depth. You can see the welds that I do want to get fixed, because they solid. My exhaust is solid all the way up to the cats, and I kind of want to put some flanges in there around the X pipe, so that way I can separate that, because I am going to be getting my clutch serviced or changed within this year, because that needs it. You know, my clutch is like I said, it's 95,000 miles, because they didn't change the clutch before I bought the car. But I don't drive the car hard. You know, I just use it as a mode of just cruising around. You know, it's not the best Mercedes that they make, you know, as far as styling, as far as horsepower, but I do enjoy this car, you know, and I get a lot of compliments when I do have my nicer wheels on, and when the car is clean. As you can see in the last couple videos, the car has been kind of dirty, and that's only because of the weather is not quite as nice as I wished it would be right now. You know, like right now I just drove through a few sprinkles. But one of these days I will get out my buffer, and I'll get out my wash mitt, clean her up, and I'm planning on cleaning it before I do my service. That way the car looks halfway decent for you guys during that service. And you know, there's a lot of things that I want to do. So I do appreciate you guys hanging out with me for this, you know, 13 minutes. And this was a one take, one shot too, just so you know. So there's a lot of a lot of stuttering. You know, I do know that I'm conscious of my pause words. So I'm working on getting better at that. And I hope that you guys will like my content coming up. You know, and like I said, I am going to try and put out a video every week for you and for me, because I love this car and I love looking at it. So I will take you around and let you see everything, and hopefully you like this car. And if you have a chance to ever find a manual transmission C300, I would recommend you jump on it and try and get it, because it is I mean, when I take it to the dealership, if I do take it to the dealership, the mechanics love it, because they're like, oh my God, it's the stick shift C300, you know, and they go wild. And it's just a C300. It's not nothing crazy. It's not an S-Class. It's not the E63, you know, it's not an AMG GT, which I know that they would go crazy over, because I do every time I see it. But let's see, that's all I got. I appreciate you guys going for this little quick road trip. I was heading out to the beach real quick, you know, maybe head up a little bit about go get my lunch and get me some seafood. But yeah, I appreciate it. You guys take it easy, and I'll see you in the next video.